Right, good evening and welcome to the Parks and Rec Commission meeting. I would like to officially call this meeting to order at 6:00 p.m. I will do roll call. Chairperson Kessel is here. Vice Chair Kramer. Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Keck. And Commissioner Osmondstad. Thank you. The first item is general public comment. This is the time members of the public may give comment of a general nature. No official action may be taken by the commission during this time. I don't see anyone in the public comment area, so I guess we will not have any of that. Is anyone on Zoom? Okay. Next up are the reports, and our Parks and Rec director will provide an update on the following. First is Verde River at Clarkdale. Cheers on.
Good evening, commissioners. Okay, so in your packet, you had a report for the Verde River at Clarkdale regarding things that are going on at Choosy Boot and our dock regarding our viewing scope at the lower Tapco River access point, and some information about our possibility of putting in some kind of housing unit for the blow up, the compressor that inflates kayaks at the river. And apparently we did do some research on this, if it was really something important and that people were using, and the ambassadors have reported that it is very well used. But it is getting beat up by them having to put it in their truck and every day and travel with it in the back. So we're looking into opportunities to keep it at the site, and it's a solar charging, since we don't have any power out there. So we'll have to have something that we can put a solar panel on, or on top or on the side. We'll have to figure that out depending on what we get. But anyway, so that was that report. Does anyone have any questions about this particular report on the Verde River? Moving along. Yeah. We also in your packet had some information about the Centerville Park equipment that we had some issues with. The coating on the platforms is peeling and the metal is starting to rust. And in order to avoid anyone getting hurt, we actually closed down that play system until we were able to come up with a solution. We looked at having to purchase new platforms. The equipment is quite old, and Centerville Park is probably the next park. It is the next park to have our attention once we get done with Selma Mangini. And so we didn't really want to invest a lot in the system, and we weren't sure they could even get the parts. But our public works team did a lot of research and were able to, actually Terry Norman did the research and was able to find this product, this rubber coating product that their team actually just got on yesterday, or maybe early this morning, must have been yesterday, and they were able to open up the playground today. We got some pictures and it looks really good. So we were super happy. It costs like $300 instead of, $300,000. And we also have in our reports the Town Park gazebo. I am pleased to tell you that the Clarkdale Town Council approved a contract with Diamond Ridge Development last night for a total of $149,847.77 to repair, do the renovations on the Town Park gazebo. They expect that project will start in approximately 6 weeks, give or take material delivery and that kind of thing. And that bid actually came in quite a bit lower than the first two bids that we had. The most recent one was 187,000, somewhere around there. So we were really super pleased with that. And they did, town manager did her homework after looking at the bid to make sure that we were getting everything that we needed for that price. So we're super excited about that. Probably will be under construction during Halloween. And so we'll have to figure that piece out. But by Christmas events, we should be good to go and have our gazebo back. So. And that's all I have for reports.
All right, thank you. Our next item is to approve the minutes from our May 23rd, 2024 meeting. Would anyone like to discuss this item? Did I hear a motion on the minutes? Okay, been moved by Commissioner Kramer and seconded by Commissioner Jones to approve the draft minutes for the meeting held on May 23rd, 2024. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Next is discussion items only. No action will be taken. The first one is Selna Mangini Park, and Parks and Rec Director will present on this item.
Thank you. We have a lot to report on this one. We're super excited. It would obviously be more exciting if we were breaking ground in this summer as we had hoped. But just to give you an update, the final plans were submitted to Gordian, the procurement, state authorized procurement company, and they have helped us select a contractor, Fan Contracting, for the project. We have been meeting with them and working with them on finalizing some pieces of the plan, answering a lot of questions back and forth. It involves a lot more than we actually realized. But what they're in the process of doing is getting us a quote or an actual cost estimate for the project with today's prices and what it's going to cost. And then once we get those numbers, we'll be able to do a full evaluation of the project and determine how far off we're going to be and what choices we might need to make from that point. We're also working in conjunction with Freeport-McMoRan. As you recall, they did the remediation project at the park. Well, their agreement is to replace like with like, and they they did the remediation, got us a clean property, but now we're trying to figure out how they can work with the contractor to do their piece. So their like with like would be replacing the Great Lawn, irrigation for the Great Lawn, the decomposed granite for the trail, the walking trails, and other parts of the park. There was something else. Anyway, so those are some of the things that that they would be taking care of for the park. And so we've been having a meeting together with the contractor and with Freeport, trying to figure out that schedule. The challenge is that Freeport is due to leave Clarkdale with their remediation team very soon, by the end of October, 1st of November. So, and our project really isn't going to be ready to start until most likely November. And based on the contractors, it's taking a long time for them to get all the costs together. There are a lot of components of this park that they're having to get the cost estimates from the subcontractors. So we've worked out an agreement with Freeport to come in and do the initial grading and drainage. That was the piece I missed. The grading and drainage for the for the park. And they will then leave. Van Contracting will come in and do the project, their portion of it, and hopefully be ready for Freeport to come back and do the completion, which will be the decomposed granite, developing the trails, and the Great Lawn. We did decide we didn't want to have irrigation, two different companies doing irrigation. So we've decided to have Fan Contracting do all of the irrigation, including for the Great Lawn, instead of having Freeport do that and Fan do the rest of it. We wanted one complete project that for warranty purposes and such, if we have issues, we're only going to one company. So with that being said, we're hoping that the contractor and Freeport, that everything's going to fall into place and we'll be moving along. The other things that are going on with the park include the public art. As you know, we've decided to have a fair amount of public art to meet our STEAM park needs. And so in order to do that, since we're not experts on art and we have a community full of artists, we developed a team of a public art working group that has been meeting. We've had 2 meetings now with them. And with the idea in mind that they're going to help us with the whole process of, we're letting them know what our needs are, and then we're letting them help us develop the process of which we'll choose the artists and what specific art we're gonna place. They'll be a part of that selection. So it's been a great conversation so far. We have quite a few. We have probably 5 different folks, artists, art enthusiasts, and town staff on the committee. And on the working group, it is not a committee. And they're just in the process of developing a plan for the system. We started with the art wall because that piece is, as you'll recall, it's the piece that goes behind the kind of where the dugout or where the backstop is now. And at this time, we're putting all the pieces together on how that will come together. It has several panels that the group is considering on how to display public art there. And we'll also be talking about the sculptures, the rainwater tank. As a reminder, I think I've told you this, Freeport McMoran donated $38,000 for that part of the project. And we're also in the process of developing a marketing brochure to help us get sponsorships for the unfunded pieces, like the lattice wall and the monument sign. So we're working on that. Any questions about that art, anything I've said so far? I know it's, I'm sorry. Yeah.
About what you just mentioned about the possible sponsorships for some of these, will that be geared more towards businesses or individuals or a mix of both?
Yeah, we talked about a couple of different things. Right now, we're focusing on businesses. At some point, we may go smaller than that. It's a lot of pieces to put together for doing smaller things like benches and trees and things like that. So we're focusing on the bigger things with higher costs that we don't currently have funded. Or if we do have it funded, if we have it in our grant, then we can free up those funds for something else. Or if our budget comes in over what our expectations are, so. And then the last piece I want to share with you is is working with Arizona State Parks. I'm sorry, with Arizona State University on their Project Cities group. We've worked with them several times on different projects, but they're involved in helping us. Their students will be helping us with the signage for the STEAM elements for the park. Excuse me. Sandwich. I shouldn't eat that sandwich. And so we've met with them just once at this point. Their students have started on the project based on a lengthy meeting that we have with them, giving them a lot of information about the STEAM elements and the overall project. And so we'll keep you posted on how that's going. They'll help us with actually the language and development of those signs that we'll place throughout the park to share the educational components of the STEAM elements. And then also today we met with the Friends of the Verde River and Michael Levick, who's been working with us on additional STEAM elements and water capture, water conservation elements of the park, and got some really good information from them. We were super excited. They looked over the entire project, and we got a big thumbs up from them on what we're doing, STEAM related, water conservation related. Just a few pointers for us on a couple of items, and also a tip on applying for some grant funds for the STEAM elements through the Friends of the Verde. Their grant application process has opened up. So we have until October 31st to determine what we're going to do. And we got some tips on particular projects within the park that would fit well into that grant. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I know that's a lot.
Okay, the next item is the Verde Connection Bike Route review and discussion, and Parks and Rec Director will update us on that.
Pretty soon, somebody else is going to talk, so I won't. So you can listen to somebody else for a while. Okay, so the Verde Connection Bike Route. The Bicycle Advisory Committee that is chaired by Jen Mabry from Yavapai County Community Health Services has written a grant, and our Find Commissioner Osmondstad has been a part of that process with assisting with the grant. And the grant is for they were awarded the grant. It is for $18,000. And Clarkdale has a piece in that. And what this basically is a route that connects Clarkdale. It's a bicycle route that connects Clarkdale and Cottonwood together. And you'll see the proposed route up on the screen. And it was also in your packet. And the ultimate goal was to create a route that was the safest that to our ability there's already a large amount of bicyclists that already go on this particular route, and some beyond it. But we wanted to define it as a Verde Connection route with signage, which the grant will pay for. What else, Robin? the bike audits. They're doing bike audits. Yeah. Do you want to
Sure.
chime in?
Um, yeah, I can speak a little bit more about the bike audits that we will be conducting August, September, and October. So we have 13 sites that we've designated, and they're through Clarkdale, Cottonwood, and some in unincorporated Yavapai County, with the purpose of observing behavior of cyclists, pedestrians, and motorists to see at certain spots, what does the flow of traffic look like? What does the behavior look like? We chose some areas specifically as a safety concern so that we can report back about, again, just the certain behavior that we're observing, but also there are some spots where we're just really interested in counting the number of people that are coming through there and using those routes. And our hope is to obviously gather a lot of information that we can then share with the town council, the city of Cottonwood, so that as we're making decisions about prioritizing future trails, future routes, that we have really solid data to back that up.
And the signage that is just a very basic green sign, green background with a white bicycle that says bike route on it. And then the Verde Connect bike route sign will allow people to be able to see that they're on the route that is proposed to them. And then is that also going to be mapped somewhere? Yeah.
Yes, so there will be two bigger maps, one at Riverfront Park in Cottonwood, and then one at Selena Mangini here in Clarkdale. And then the maps will also be available online through some of the biking apps that people use as a suggestion, again, for people to be able to get through the area and use an alternate route that's a little bit safer, quieter, is using existing bike routes or just wider streets with slower speed limits.
How many signs have you, I mean, like how often will you have so people know if you're still on the right route?
Do you know more details about that? I don't know that specific detail. I know at points, certainly where there are turns, we'll designate those clearly. And otherwise, probably just using kind of a standard length between signs.
I was thinking when I was reading that it would be a cool place for like people training for a half marathon. I mean, it'd be a nice little
Absolutely.
18-mile
Mhm.
route.
Yeah. I mean, we're speaking about it as if it were a bike trail, but really, I think so many of our bike trails are also a great alternative for safer pedestrian traffic too.
Mhm. The grant also will pay for 2 large-scale signs. One will go at Selena Mangini Park with the bike route map on it, and one will be in Cottonwood at Riverfront Park is where the other one is going. And also paid for by the grant are 3 ADA bike repair stations. So one of those will be going at Selena Mangini Park. So that was something that was really nice because that was something that we didn't need to include in our budget because it'll be paid for by that grant. So, and just to let you all know, we have a great collaboration with Cottonwood through the Bicycle Advisory Committee, through lots of different things we work together on. But the Bicycle Advisory Committee used to be just basically a Cottonwood organization. And it has expanded thanks to Jen and her work and Yavapai County Community Health taking on the leadership of that. Getting a lot of things done, looking at a lot of different trails. We attend those meetings monthly and have a lot of great collaborative conversations on how we can connect our communities and, just another part of our trail and active transportation plan. So it's really been phenomenal in working with them. And I appreciate Robin taking on a role in that and helping as well. Any other questions about it? We'll keep you posted on when things start going up. I do need to talk to our Public Works Department and find out what they can do for us. So as far as installation.
Okay, our next item is review and discussion of the naming of the Track K Park, and our Parks and Rec Assistant Manager will present on this item.
Good evening. So I'm Michelle Smart, Assistant Manager for Parks and Communications for the town of Clarkdale. And it's my pleasure tonight to get to talk to you guys about Tract K Park and specifically asking for your help in defining the process so that we can name this park. We've given a few updates to you guys, so you know where it's located. It's at 700 Skyline Boulevard. And this is the second park that came out of a development agreement with Crossroads at Mingus subdivision. And so I'm hoping tonight, that we'll just have a discussion and kind of brainstorm together the best way to tackle this. All right, so our goal is to ensure that the park reflects the unique character and the identity of the area while creating a sense of pride and ownership among Clarkdale residents. I know you guys got your packet and it had a few ideas inside of it, but there are a few questions I'm hoping you guys can help us answer before we go out to the public. So we were thinking that the public process period would probably be around 60 days. And so we're open to kind of hearing what you guys think about that, but based on past naming and past experiences with how long it takes, we thought that would give us enough time to reach a cross-section of our population and get to have enough feedback to make a good decision. So what do you guys think about that first piece? For 60 days, more or less? Okay. All right, so then the next question is who in the public we really want to focus on engaging. So this is technically a neighborhood park. It's for the people who live around this park. There are 12 houses that just kind of circumnavigate kind of the park, just right around it. And we expect that the rest of Crossroads at Mingus will come out there as well. And there's a public walking trail that's right next to it. And there's a very nice restroom that'll be at this location. So we think the public enjoying that trail will also come there. But one of the big questions we have is, do we feel like we need to go out to all of the town of Clarkdale to name this park, or would we rather keep it more localized to the Crossroads at Mingus subdivision or neighborhoods in that area? So
I think it makes more sense to keep it kind of locally around the park. It's kind of going to give them a little more ownership, in my opinion. But what do y'all
I
think?
agree with that. I think we should take a similar approach to how we did Summit on Genie with what amenities, they want and put the most weight with the people that are right there in that neighborhood. And if we get enough feedback from them and some good names, then those should be the primary choices to name the park. And if for some odd reason, nobody in that neighborhood cares to throw names in the hat, then maybe we need to expand our approach.
okay.
I have a question about who will be making the final decision? Will that be the town? Will it be like kind of a grouping of suggestions and then the town will choose the ultimate?
So in the past, my understanding is that we went out to the public, they brought back ideas,
Mhm.
and then we canvassed the public in order to land on final ideas.
Okay.
I would say that the town would reserve the right
Mhm.
to make a final decision
Mhm.
because I suppose you never know exactly what would happen. But I think the intention of this process is to have the public name this park and feel good about the name of this park. So that will be the goal.
Okay. My only my reason for asking that was if part of the process would be like gathering ideas and then there was a group specifically from that neighborhood that chose the final group, then we could take some suggestions from the larger town. Um,
Yeah, we could absolutely have a system where we could go canvass a neighborhood, take a flyer to the people who live in that area or mail information to them, have them submit ideas online through an online survey, and then have them come back at a certain period and let them know, okay, now it's time to vote on your favorite choice. So we could absolutely have a two-part process like that.
If I could add also, in the past, when we have named, uh, this body, makes a recommendation to the council. So in the end, so that's why it's important that you decide what the process is going to be. And then you're going to make the final decision based on the public input. And then then we take it, or this commission takes it, or we take it on your behalf to the council for the final approval.
So I think the next step we're going to talk about is kind of like how we want to reach out to them. So if we could, it sounds like we're in agreement that we would like to stay focused on the people who live near the park. Are we thinking the entire Crossroads subdivision, which includes, they will have two parks, or are you thinking more localized right next to this park? Because the subdivision is significantly larger.
Like, in terms of, do you have any idea, like raw numbers, like how many more?
I mean, I would say there's hundreds of houses in there, right, Joni?
I think I mean, it is a park for their neighborhood. It can also be a destination park. So if people are walking the neighborhood, they could be in one section of, I mean, it's a large development. So there are some areas where the homes are much closer together and a little more separated from parks. And, they don't have a separate park for each of the particular areas. So, yeah, I mean, I think if it's a Crossroads, I'm just sort of thinking if it's a Crossroads park in that subdivision that, maybe you want to consider asking everyone. It is a much bigger area, but it's still in that development that those folks live. So, I mean, that's just a thought.
I mean. I-
I think that we often are like, it seems like we worry a lot of times that we're going to get so much feedback and we're going to get so much input. And I think the more limited we make the ask, the bigger chance we have that it's kind of crickets by the end of our waiting period. And so after 30 days or 45 days or 60 days, we're kind of going, well, we still haven't heard anything. So I think while I like the idea of the really localized community having a larger voice, I think our best chance at getting a wider base of suggestions to work with as a group would be to send it out in the easiest, biggest way. I would think small talk is that's what I would think is, hey, we have a new park. This is where it is. If you have an idea for a name, scan a QR code, type in your thing. And then if we get an overwhelming response, we can work through that problem. But realistically, I think, if you send it out to 12 houses, we would expect 1 to 2 responses, maybe. And then if we're going to say, no, the wider Crossroads area, well, where do we draw those lines? And there are some people who live closer to that park that are part of what Mingus Shadows then are part of Crossroads, right? Significantly closer. So they wouldn't have a voice because they're not in I think it gets really messy. I would say you throw it out to the wide group. everybody, hey, whoever has a good idea, and then as we have more and more suggestions, we kind of narrow it down and see where we're at, or maybe we go, hey, here's the top 5 to that smaller group, that smaller neighborhood, and say, do you guys have a door-to-door thing? Here's a survey. If you want to turn in, oh, hey, we got 3 surveys back. They really like this one. Great. Now they chose, but we got good suggestions from everybody. That's what I would think would be maybe the easiest and less like. I just have the idea that if we draw a line and say people on this side get to vote on the park name, people on that side don't, then it's like a Dr. Seuss problem, you know what I mean?
I would also add that, I had something really good to add. That, oh, they have an HOA that serves the whole community. So that seems like a really good spot for the outreach. And again, if they're talking amongst themselves, I think I would agree with you. That, it could, rub some people the wrong way. So if it's, yeah, good discussion.
Okay, so it sounds like we heard a lot of ideas. And so how are we feeling? Like we definitely would reach out to the HOA in this area. We definitely will target and focus on this neighborhood and really all of the Crossroads subdivision. Do we want to go outside of that group to also ask for naming suggestions and potentially to weigh in on the most popular name? How do we feel as a group about that?
I like the idea of putting it out there and like Ben was saying, in these communication channels that already exist for the town and just put it out there, see what kind of response, anybody can give a suggestion for a name. I think as long as we're giving the, the proper like importance to the people who are around the park. That's how I see it.
Well, small talk would obviously be the easiest way to get it out to everybody if that's what we decided that would solve one of the problems and, about how to get it out instead of mailing to certain areas. I'm okay with it wide net. I don't feel strongly either way.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on that piece? All right, so next is the delivery method. It sounds like we definitely want to use small talk. Are we comfortable with also putting the information out through our social media channels? That's pretty standard for us in the town. And then we'll use our weekly newsletter, which we use pretty much in the same way we use small talk. So we'll put that out as well. How do we feel about the need for door-to-door survey of the residents? If we're going to go to the HOA, that will help and we'll take information to the HOA. But do we want to incorporate a door-to-door part of this process, which would require volunteer mobilization?
Which would require you going door to door.
Well, the one challenge I would see with the social media representation is now we're looking at outside of Clarkdale. We're looking at people from Phoenix or from Prescott who may be very engaged in the social media of the town all the time and not really have a nexus to our community. So are we opening it up to become like some kind of targeted, thing that somebody wants to make a fuss about? I don't know, but.
Okay, well, we could stick just to the other methods and we do have a larger percentage of just Clarkdale residents when it comes to the weekly newsletter, which is online. And
Or maybe when they give their suggestion, they would also include their zip code. Or something like that.
Address, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Anyway. Mhm, that's right.
And we, as part of the feedback,
oh, John, will you turn your mic on if you don't mind? Thank you.
can we, as part of the feedback, similar to what we did at Mongini, have, when they give the feedback, say, are you part of this neighborhood? Is there a mechanism that we can do that where we know or that they're a Clarkdale resident, or you know what I mean, like. So that, you know, the people closer, I would just like to identify their feedback and make sure that we're getting their input and giving it the priority.
Yes, we can add a question so that we'll be able to sort it in that way when we all meet again. And so that way you'll know how much engagement we got from those neighbors in that subdivision. All right, are there any other methods that you think you guys would like us to use while we're reaching out to the public? Public meetings is one that came up as an option. And sometimes, you know, we could meet at the park and have people come out to the park and try to have some light refreshments and welcome them to the new park and talk about the naming at that time as well. We wanted to do something in person. What do you all think about that?
So will the park be completed and open and fully functioning?
The hope is yes, September 1 is our date that we're expecting completion by.
I mean, that's kind of a great thing to incorporate into like, you know, a grand opening event, is to have everybody participate in naming. I think that's a great time to do it.
Okay, and we can put a banner up on that site, letting people know we're gonna have the gathering and try to get more people there with a nice banner as well. All right, is everyone in agreement? Then that sounds like a good plan. Okay. All right, so the last piece, we don't really have to go into too deeply, but we wanted to give some ideas based on NERPA's, National Parks and Rec Association suggestions for how parks are normally named. So just a broad overview of kind of different things to take into consideration. And so the first one is that a lot of parks are named after local landmarks or institutions. And then it kind of goes into more details about that. And so some suggested names could be something like Crossroads at Mingus Park, like that's specific of a name, or Skyline Park, because that's the name of the road that it's on. So that's kind of how you'd use that option. The next suggestion is that they're named after geographic features. So it'd be something like Mingus Mountain Park. Cultural identity for that neighborhood is something we might watch for. Environmental themes, community values, future vision for the area, and then historical significance. So since it sounds like we have talked about wanting to really start with the public offering up those names, I don't think we need to go too much further into these kinds of ideas just yet, but I'm sure these things will come up as we go through the process. Okay, all right, so that's all that I have. I think you guys were very helpful. We look forward to giving you an update at our next meeting about how everything has been strategized out. So we'll bring you more details then, okay? Thank you.
Okay, the next item is review and discussion of the 2024 Clarkdale Old Fashioned 4th of July event. Our Parks and Rec Director will present again. Just kidding.
I'm back. Okay, so let's talk 4th of July. The reason we put this as an agenda item is so that we can have a discussion about it. We had our 4th of July event. It went very well. The pancake breakfast, it was actually a little less attended than normal. We attribute that to a couple of things. It was very hot. And it also was on a Thursday, which a lot of people are off on Friday. It gives them a long weekend. People go out of town. It happens, but we still had a good turnout. The parade was also a little slim in attendees. all in all, it was a good event, but we are really interested in, since you all were there and helping with so many pieces of the event, if you had any particular feedback you would like to give us to make note of for next year. And just a reminder, we did have $2,500 donated, which really helped us cover the tent setup and yeah, all the other things it costs us. Lots of things. Can you
Well,
keep it?
I'm usually a spectator at this. The parade was very brief, but it was probably because the heat, I suppose, and all the other things. I was just curious how the contest went. Did everything go fine up at the school and no need to change?
Yeah, I think it went fine. Janet Regner helped me judge up there, and we just went through and wrote them all down. The biggest debate was without numbers, how are we figuring out? And we were just really meticulous about saying, hey, what's your group name? Okay, what's like a family name? What's, your folks' name or whatever. That way we had somebody to call out. And I think this time it went a little bit better with calling out people, and you got almost everybody this time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. The challenge that we had was not having a stage, not having the gazebo.
Kind of
We were
focused.
kind of off to the side.
Yeah.
Our sound system maybe wasn't great for the amount of noise and activity that was going on at that time. Because a lot of people, we had to call out several times. The mayor was doing the call out. And so I feel like we might want to consider, well, in the future, next year, we should have our gazebo back and we can have a band, and a band will have a sound system. And that's what we've, that's been helpful in the past. That's what we use for concerts in the park. And so I think, that's definitely something that can improve, is just the announcements, because there was a lot of chaos and we were kind of off to the side, and
And then we changed from everything being locked into the 5 categories to just like 5 blue ribbon winners, 5 red, 5 white. And that was a lot simpler.
Yeah, and I think that's the second year we did that.
Yeah.
And it does make it, because oftentimes you don't even have enough in the categories to. give
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
Just, I know this is a budget issue, but I wish we could get more shade for people. It is too hot. I mean, I think you guys were down there all day. I don't know how you did it, because we had, 20 people trying to get under a little tree. And I know it's all comes down to money. But if we can figure out more shade, that would be awesome.
well, what we could do is certainly go to our sponsor. I mean, we put out the amount that we felt we needed for the event. So we can look for additional sponsorship, maybe a co-sponsor that could help us get additional shade put up in the park. For us in the core, kind of around that nice big shade tree, it wasn't terrible. There was a place that we could get, but I agree. I like that. And the area where folks sit to eat gets really sunny. And so if we could cover that area at least, and maybe have another tent off into the grass over by the school kids, because they were standing in lines out in the sun waiting to be able to get up and play. And that was some feedback that we did get. So some additional shade for the kids standing in the line, and shade for the pancake breakfast people. And I think a lot of people would stay longer if there was shade. And I'm not gonna lie, it would be really helpful for those of us taking down the chairs later, because they would be in the shade and not in the hot sun. Those metal chairs were really hot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it being earlier in the day in, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I feel like at some point it got pushed back an hour or two. And so now it's like really, because I remember that thing wrapping up like at 10 o'clock and there was nobody in the park anymore. And now it seems like it's stretched a lot longer. I don't know if that's anything, or if you remember that. I mean, do you remember the pancake breakfast being earlier? No?
I don't.
No. One of the challenges with cleanup is I think a lot of people are wanting to help and everything else, and they're starting to clean up halfway through the band's doing their thing and everything else. So we might want to say, we're not moving any chairs or any tables until this time. And don't, hey, thanks everybody, but just leave them alone or whatever. That would be maybe something, because then you get like all these people and it's not necessarily, it's kind of kind of a little dangerous and, really
Yeah,
hot.
I don't really like that either. So I think, again, having the shade, I think more people will stay seated there. It's just a little weird that we have all those empty tables and nobody's sitting there because they're in the sun.
Mhm.
And when we have a cleanup crew there, it's like, but I've
Yeah.
always hated that we take that down. So I think that's that if we have the shade, let's get another sponsor and get it covered.
Yeah.
And then we can just leave it until the event is over.
Yeah. Good.
And as far as starting earlier, I feel like maybe there was like, not in my time in working for the town, but at some point it maybe started at 6. I think the challenge with that is the fire department and the police department
Yeah.
being able, I mean, they'd have to get there really early to get everything going to be serving people by 6.
Sure.
Again, I think we get the shade.
Great.
Yeah, the other issue with starting to clean up earlier is the volunteers that we asked to show up at 11 and I think sometime even this year, they showed up and everything was already complete. But yeah, so that would help that issue too.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, volunteers already balk at getting there at 6:30. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
they're gonna get there at 5:30.
Yeah, I just wondered if anyone remembered us doing it earlier before.
I think if we can get more shade next year with sponsorship, if we can find a way to sort of put that into our promotion, that we have more shade. And I say that because I canvassed all of my friends after the fact, because we were here for the breakfast and everything. It was really good. But yes, it gets hot as soon as the sun comes around, and everybody that I know that I asked, did you come? If they said no, heat was the reason that they didn't come. So if we're able to say, hey, we have shade for the breakfast and you can utilize shade for watching the parade, etc., and have that as part of the promotion, it might help get more people to turn out.
Good.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, we're gonna move on to new business and we will discuss, consider and act upon our Halloween 2024 event with our Parks and Rec. No? Oh, Assistant Manager. Yes, I see you cross that out. Okay.
Yes. All right, so we are going to talk about the event plan. Your staff report went into what we're proposing for this year. So I don't want to waste your time by rehashing all of it. But our Halloween event is always a lot of fun. We want to make this year the best year that we've ever had. And so we have recommended the following this year. Our safe trick or treating, we of course would like to do that again with no change to the event route from last year. Candy purchase of $1,000 from the town and $1,500 that Jennifer Griffin again has donated. Candy bagging will take place again because we give that candy to our houses right along the trick or treat route. Candy delivery again, we are planning on hosting the costume contest again. And the town sound system will be used for announcements. staff will determine a backup location in Town Park for the costume contest and all announcements, because very likely the concrete pad is not going to be available. The gazebo won't be available or finished quite yet. And due to staffing limitations and logistical concerns, these elements are not planned for this year, which is purchasing decorations. In the past, we've had a lot of fun just decorating that gazebo and getting donated money to go and get those decorations, but it doesn't really make sense this year while things are under construction. And the audio tech volunteer who we've had in the past, we don't anticipate that we'll have them again to help with the town speaker system. So I just wanted you to know that that's a change this year. And volunteer participation is the same as last year, except just one change with Town Park Candy Station. We think we only need one person there. So I'm hoping we can have a conversation about what changes you guys think we need, or if you think this is a good plan. Any input that you have from prior years, we're all ears. What do you guys think?
I think it's been working well the last couple of years, and if it ain't broke. I mean, I don't see any, I think it's been great. I like all the, everything. I mean, there's the only one change, one volunteer instead of. It's easy. So I like it. I don't see any changes needed, but you guys, anybody else?
I don't see any changes to the major stuff. I do kind of have a memory of last year, right after the event, we talked about maybe handling the judging a little bit differently so that we could keep things moving a little bit more quickly. Do you remember any of those details?
Yeah, let's see. So we go by age group. We're looking for what, 1, 2, and 3 in each age group, each category. And we were trying to just have it be, yeah, a quicker turnaround time, I guess, because on some of them, it turns into 5 or 6 laps around, you know, and I think the parents they're ready to get it and go. So maybe, I forget what we were gonna do to change that to make it faster.
I don't know if this is specifically what we said, but this is one way we could do it. I think instead, because oftentimes too, because the kids, we don't always recognize what their costumes are.
Yeah,
And so us trying to describe on our list and then handing it to the person who's announcing it, and then they say it out loud, and then, you know, we either got that right or wrong. There's kind of some, you know, delays that might happen there. If we have one person designated from our judging group that stands up with the 1, 2, and 3 and just hands them to the people maybe and says like, you know,
maybe more
third place,
like
second place,
livestock,
fourth place.
you know, I have 3 here, 2. This is 2, like this, or like that. Or
don't
have
know-
them,
I don't
or
know
have
if
them
that
stand to this, or have them stand to the side. and
Yeah,
say, "Hey,
maybe
can you
like
step
that.
next to the table.
Something like
This
that.
is our 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations, here's your prizes. Everybody else, thank you.
Yeah, something like that,
Okay,
maybe.
yeah. Yeah, I'd be open to something like that. Or one of us get up and
Mhm.
call them out. Okay,
And then we could have like the kid, I mean, if that seems maybe impersonal, we could always have the kids like say what they are or something. Well, I don't know
yeah, so we're
But
not
they're-
guessing.
what their costume is, you know, so they get a little bit of extra time in the limelight and we know what they're, yeah, they get to say
Yeah.
what the costume.
Can I get some clarification on what you said? Are you saying I mean, I know what you said, but what did you mean? By them, they would line up, like, I mean, they go around in a circle if they just line up instead of doing that? Is that
Joni,
what you're saying?
I remember last year when we did do our recap and you guys mentioned this, it was going to be on the 3rd lap because we were thinking 3 laps instead of more, that on that 3rd lap, one of you would have the people like step out just over to the side. So then they would pull over 3 people who then would stand, everybody else would go back. And then we'd make the announcements and give them the 3 awards. So they'd be next to us making those announcements and they would make sure they pull the right 3 over. so that we don't have confusion. Because sometimes when we say Batman won second place, we have three little Batman. So sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think on the last time
Example of
around,
injustice.
was there some idea of having them grab a piece of candy too as they went around that last time, or somebody got something? I think that was mentioned as well, maybe. So yeah, we can look at that, and we'll review our notes from last year because we did do a debrief after Halloween, and I'll probably have to rewatch that video and make sure we get all of those ideas then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's a good idea. Anything else that we'd like to add for Halloween?
Anybody else?
Did anyone have any comments about the trunk or treat? Is that an okay thing to continue? There was no negative feedback about it.
Is that the downtown business alliance?
Yeah.
I haven't heard any.
Okay, I was just checking.
Any other further discussion?
We did talk a little bit about trying to increase the amount of candy that we're giving the Main Street houses. Obviously, that's the big thing we can do to try to take a little bit of a load off of those homeowners because they do so much for us. So we're going to continue to brainstorm ideas for that. And if you guys have any ideas, love to hear those. You can talk about it now or email us, but we want to try to get more candy than ever donated this year. Maybe look for more sponsorship money for it. And we have the same budget this year from that the town's contributing from the general plan, but we want to try to stretch it further for the candy.
Are we still doing the house decoration contest?
So we did not do it
We didn't
last
do it
year
last
and we're not recommending it this year either, but
Yeah.
we're open if that's something we want to have more of a discussion about.
Well, maybe there's just a way to highlight those houses as, maybe through the social media or something, try to cruise around and get some pictures of them all decorated and just say, hey, just to recognize them in some way. Some people work really hard to do that. If we're not going to do the thing, I mean, it's hard, but maybe there's another way to just recognize them for their additional participation.
It's a good idea. We did take a lot of pictures the last few years and we make sure we post those all up on social media.
I wanted to mention that at the Rural Policy Forum that we had about 300 people, the town hosted this past weekend, last week. The mayor did a great job of informing everyone about our great Halloween event. So we'll probably have at least 300 more people there. But a lot of people did seem really excited about that. And we're like, yeah, maybe we're going to come over to Clarkdale. So yeah, just wanted to let you know, she did a good job. And the governor was there too, in case you didn't know.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so staff recommends approval of the 2024 Halloween event plan with the addition of the judging suggestions which are made, more candy for Main Street houses and pictures of decorated houses. How specific do you want me to get? Is that fine? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I would move to approve the 2024 Halloween event plan with the additional discussion items noted.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Kramer. Any seconds?
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Osmondstad to approve the 2024 Halloween event plan with the suggestions given. Is there any further discussion of this motion? Okay, it has been, I already said, well, it's been moved by Commissioner Kramer and seconded by Commissioner Osmondstad to approve the 2024 Halloween event plan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. We are on to future agenda items. Are there anybody have any future agenda items? Suggestions?
I want to bring up, I don't know if it would be an agenda item, but the youth positions. What we were just talking about Halloween, it would be awesome if we had a youth person. And I don't know if this is something that should be an item for discussion to try to brainstorm how we actually can get some people, youth interested. But that's my idea, because in my past life, on a different commission, we brought youth in. And it was really good for everybody, and I'm sort of sad right now that we don't already have some candidates and have youth participation. So that's my,
So we can
You-
have that.
Yeah, do you want to give them, tell, because I've been seeing it around a lot. I mean, what have you done
Okay.
so far to try to?
Yeah, we have promoted it. So we'll, very briefly, we have promoted it, but I feel the same way. And so I don't think it's necessary. I mean, we have some ideas on further promotion because what we're doing isn't getting us anywhere. So I think it's a good idea to add it to the agenda. Let us continue to do the work that we're doing, and then let's have a conversation. If we're still not getting anywhere by that time, maybe we need to look at the program and change it up somehow if we're not able to get, because, yeah, I agree. So we'll add it.
Anyone else? With no further items, is there any objection to adjournment? Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 7:05.